Hello, hi, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to another reading wrap up on this channel. In the month of February, I have read a total of 4 books, which is one more than what I have read in January, so I would call that a win. So without further ado, let's jump into all the books that I have read in the month of February. So before I jump into the books that I have read in the month of February, I do want to mention that I am debating on whether I should continue on with these monthly reading wrap-ups, mainly because I do a reading vlog on some of these books, so it's kind of like me repeating myself of what I have said in my past vlogs. So this month I have read a total of 4 books, and 3 of these 4 books are in a reading vlog already. So that's why I'm kind of debating on whether I should do these monthly reading wrap-ups if majority of the books that I read is already in a reading vlog. I'm still testing it out, see how it goes. And another option is that instead of these monthly reading wrap-ups, I can probably do a seasonal reading wrap-up. I think that would be pretty good too if I collect all the books that I have read for that season and then do a reading wrap-up. Even though I do have these books in a reading vlog, it's been quite a long while that we touched base on these books, so maybe it won't be that repetitive. Maybe I can start it in the summer, or maybe I don't even have to do a reading wrap-up. So we'll see how it goes. That was a huge tangent. So without further ado, let's jump into the books that I have read in the month of February. So the first book I have finished in the month of February comes from my February TBR, which is a bonus, which is great. It seems to me that I have never successfully completed my monthly TBRs. So I'm glad to say that I have knocked out one. Maybe it is only one. I have only read one of the books on my February TBR, and that is Thornhedge by T. Kingfisher. This was the prompt where I thought this would be an easy read. I have a reading vlog on this book. This is in my TBR takedown video, and honestly, before jumping into this book, I thought I could finish this in a day or two, just because the page count is only 111 pages. And being the first book that I have completed in February, I thought this was going to be a win, easy win. I can finish a book really early. It would be a book that I completed. However, this took me as long as a 500-page book to read. So this actually took me about a week and maybe a bit over a week to finish this book. I just wasn't gravitating towards this book. I was able to put it down whenever I needed, and I was actually quite distracted with other hobbies of interest. So this is a dark Sleeping Beauty retelling, and honestly, I do love that concept. It's refreshing, it's different, I like that. So instead of following the princess, we are following Toadling, and she is a fairy, but not the fairy that is in Sleeping Beauty. So she was born as a human, and at birth, the fairies wanted to play a little trick on the humans and switched out the human baby with a changeling. So we jump into the book and we see that she is pretty much standing guard, but not really. She's just hovering around the tower where the princess lies. That's what the rumors are saying. That's what the folklore, the legend is saying about this tower. There is a princess stuck in a tower, and there are thorns surrounding this tower, so you can barely see the tower itself. Because of all these thorns that is surrounding the tower, it is quite hard to see if there is a tower beyond the thorns. At the beginning of the book, we see Toadling. She's just around the tower. She's not able to leave the tower. It's as if something is stopping her from leaving the tower. And in comes our knight, and he is I would say the second protagonist in this novel. He has heard all about the rumors, the legend, the stories that there is a princess stuck in a tower, and he's just curious to see if that is true. At the beginning, I wasn't really invested in the story. I didn't really care about the characters. I also didn't really care about the storyline. Being a novella, I thought we would jump right into the action, but I felt like it wasn't until the 65% mark where everything started happening. So I rated this a 3.5 stars, which is not a bad rating. It's a pretty good rating. And I did enjoy reading this book. It was a fun read. It was a different type of read. The writing was quite interesting to me. I do see myself picking up another T. Kingfisher book to see if her writing is for me. And the second book that I'm thinking of picking up is Nettle and Bone. I heard many great things about that one as well. If I didn't read the acknowledgements, I would have probably rated this a 3 stars just because the beginning, it just took me a long while to get into the story. And by the 65% mark, that's a bit, not that it's too late, because it's never too late, but it's just that the book is already ending, being it 111 pages. How T. Kingfisher described how she decided to write this novel really brought it up that 0.5 stars. That is Thornhedge by T. Kingfisher. I still really enjoyed it. It was a fun read. It was a different type of read for me. I am curious to see if this author is for me by reading one of her other popular books, which is Nettle and Bone. So that is Thornhedge by T. Kingfisher. The next book I read is a book that has been on my TBR for the longest. I believe this is one of the first books that I've ever owned ever since I started reading again back in 2022, 2023. And that is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. My eldest sister already read this. My best friend has already read this. Melina here on BookTube has been telling me to read this as well. It was a sign. I needed to read this. Also, a bonus is that this was one of the books on my winter TBR. Out of my winter TBR, this was the only book I have finished in that seasonal TBR. But I will have to do better on reading books on my TBRs. At first, I was a bit hesitant to jump into it because of all the hype that is around this book until 2026. That's the time to read it when I feel like it's not as hyped up, but it's still a very popular book. I really enjoyed this book. This book made me feel all types of emotions. So we follow Monique Grant, and she is a reporter from this magazine, but she's not a really well-known reporter. And she gets handpicked by Evelyn Hugo, who is this reclusive Hollywood icon, to write her autobiography. So when Monique accepted to do an interview for Evelyn Hugo on a different topic, it was for a charity event that she was donating a bunch of her gowns to. She went in thinking that she is just writing a column about Evelyn Hugo. However, Evelyn Hugo decides to handpick her to write an autobiography of Evelyn Hugo's life. That's where we start. And the topic of interest that I believe Monique decides to go with is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, hence the title of the book. I really like how this book was structured. I believe this book had chapters in it, but it was sectioned off as The Seven Husbands. So that was a very interesting take to the book. There is a connection between Evelyn and Monique. And so we're trying to also figure out what that twist is and what's that connection between the two characters are. But at the same time, the main premise of this book was to look into Evelyn Hugo's life and the seven husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Now, when Evelyn Hugo decides to do this autobiography with Monique, all her lovers, the seven husbands, her lovers, all passed away. She is the only one standing. So she decides to finally tell her story. Now, I really enjoyed this book. Evelyn Hugo made some very frustrating choices and decisions. I really like how Taylor Jenkins Reid would throw in little foreshadows in the book so that it gets you continuing to read this book. I really enjoyed Taylor Jenkins Reid's writing in here. It really got me flipping through the pages. I was engaged throughout the story. I felt like this book really tugged on my heartstrings between Evelyn and her true love. Made me feel all sorts of ways. There are many times that I did not agree with her choices and I just didn't like her as a person, but at the same time, I also can see the appeal in her. I can see why it deserved that 5 stars. However, I gave this a 4.75 stars because it's missing that little feeling that I'm waiting for in a 5 star. That's why I rated this a 4.75 stars. So that is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. The next book I finished in the month of February, I don't have a physical copy yet, but I do own the first and the third book in the trilogy, and that is Jade War by Fonda Lee. So actually, let me get the 2 books. So I only have the first and the third book. I didn't have Jade War. So in February, I didn't read Jade City or Jade Legacy. I read the second book, which is Jade War, but I only have the first and the third book because they were on sale. I am super excited to read Jade Legacy, and I had to buy this trilogy. This was an all-time favorite read immediately, right from the start with Jade City. It became my all-time favorite read. Because I absolutely enjoyed Jade City and Jade War, I knew I had to own the Greenbone Saga trilogy. That's why we only have the first and third book. Maybe I'll wait until the second book goes on sale, or I'll just buy it, just for the heck of it. Maybe during my birthday month so that I can do a mini book haul and I can get Jade War. And there would be a discount on it anyway. I will hold up Jade City since I have completed that book. Jade City by finally. So actually we're talking about Jade War. For Jade War, this is the second in the Greenbone saga, so I can't really say much about it, but we're diving into more politics. We're diving more into the story. It's becoming more complex that I don't even know how to explain it, but to use the first book and just say a quick overview on what it was about. Because I have a reading, it's not really a reading vlog, but I did talk about this book in my waking up at 6 a.m. to read more, but I was in between books. I didn't give a deep dive into this book, I think, but I did talk about it in my January wrap up. Jade City, we are in the city of Kowloon. This city is also known as the Jade City because the magical element in the city is jade. Not everyone can use jade. You need to be trained to use jade. And we follow two clan syndicates. The first being No Peak. This is the clan that we are actually following. In this No Peak clan, we are following the Cull family. Their rival clan is the Mountain Clan, and that's run by Aitmata, and they just have opposing opinions on the politics in this world. As I mentioned, jade is not really an element that everyone can use, and it gives you these powers, and these powers are deception, strength, perception, channeling, etc. And you need to be trained to use this magical element, otherwise it can lead to some pretty brutal side effects and can eventually take your life. And there is this drug that can help you use the magical element jade, and that is called SN1, and that is like the debate that is going on in this land. One clan is pro SN1, the other is not. And the idea of expanding jade to other lands and cities outside of Kowloon is another debate. So I think that's the best I can describe this, but definitely read this book. It's so good. The second book, it took me almost a month to read, but I absolutely enjoyed it. I wanted to film my TBR takedown, so I did put Jade War on pause, but when I went back to the book, I felt like I just took a mini break, but it wasn't so hard to jump back into the world and meet all these characters again. I don't really have a character that I really like, but just the Cull family itself is just a very interesting family to follow. And all of these characters are morally gray and also very complex. And I feel like I am very connected to this family. If I have to read Jade Legacy, I am going to be so sad once this trilogy is over because I am so invested in the story. I'm very invested in the characters as well, although I don't really have a favorite character. Ending the series is going to be very hard for me, because I really enjoyed the series. And I think I heard that Jade Legacy is devastating. So I am excited, but at the same time, sad to be finishing this trilogy maybe in the near future, but highly recommend this trilogy. Absolutely loved it. It's amazing. I love Fondalee's writing in here. Absolutely stunning. When I was reading Jade City and Jade War, I felt like I was watching a movie. It is very heavy into politics. However, I absolutely ate the politics up. It's so good. That is Jade War. Even though I didn't really talk about Jade War itself, I can't really say much because that's just the second in the series. All I can say is that I gave that one a 4.75 stars. I wonder if it's because I took a whole month to read it. If I had just focused on that book from start to finish, I think maybe it would have gotten a 5 stars. It was lacking that 5-star feeling that I had with Jade City. Technically should be a 5 stars, but because it took me that long to read and I had that little disconnect in between the book, I gave this one a 4.75 stars, which is still a phenomenal read. That is Jade War, and I cannot wait to get to Jade Legacy. The last book I have read in the month of February was The Poet Empress by Shen Tao. Yes, it's a library book, and so I had to film this video before I return the book. This is also in my upcoming video. After this, I think this one's gonna come up first. So we are set in the Azalea dynasty, and during this era, famine is taking over the world. At the beginning of the book, we follow our female main protagonist, Wei. She loses her baby sister, literally 3 days old. At this point, she just wants the famine to go away. Now, one day during New Year's, her little brother Bao wants to go into the city to attend the festivities that happens in the city. It was rumored that the prince would grant blessings to each of the cities. So Wei and her little brother travel many hours into the city to see the festivities that happens in the city. And to Wei's surprise, there was actually a prince that comes visits the city and grants all these blessings. And this prince has the power of guo, which is fruit. Once he grants this blessing, an abundance of fruits grow. And so we see peaches and we see plums. During this era where famine is taking over the world, this is such a great power. Now, there was also another reason why the prince came into the city, and that is to announce that the crown prince is looking for concubines. And because Wei is desperate and wants the world to change, Wei offers herself to be part of the concubines. Now, this crown prince is known to be brutal, cruel, a tyrant. His power is Dao, which is knife or sword, and anything sharp objects, I would say. He is known to be cruel and cold-hearted and literally give no mercy. He would kill on the spot. I forgot to mention the magical elements here. The magic system here is through poetry. During the Azalea dynasty, women were not allowed to read, let alone write. She decides to learn how to write in secret to take down the crown prince. So that is essentially what it's about. I did really enjoy this book. I gave this book a 4 stars. I would say the first 30% of the book, I wasn't really into the story. I felt like the story started to pick up when we got to see the past of the crown prince. His name is Terran, and his older brother Maro, who also wields power. His power is Lu, which is road. He creates these roads to connect cities to cities and to enable transportation amongst the cities. When we were looking into the past of the two brothers, I started getting more invested into the story. They were written in third person, whereas when we are reading Wei's perspective, that's mainly what we are following. It is written in first person. I couldn't really connect to her character. It could be because we're not looking at her specifically, but looking at the two brothers. I feel like if it's written in first person, maybe we can connect to the character more easily. But instead, I felt like I wasn't really connecting with our female main character, but instead I really was invested in the two brothers. The ending, my jaw dropped. I did not expect the ending, but at the same time, it was a very satisfying ending. There was a little bit of a plot twist near the end of the book that I did not expect, but it made sense. And I found that this ending was so satisfying. I would say it was like a bittersweet ending. And this is Shen Tao's debut novel, so she did a phenomenal job writing this novel. I really did enjoy it, although in the beginning, I did struggle with trying to get engaged in the story, but overall, I gave this a 4 stars. Only because in the beginning, I was having a little bit of trouble getting engaged in the story, but once we got into the past of the brothers, it started to pick up for me, and I really enjoyed this book. So that is The Poet Empress by Shen Tao. That is all the books that I have read in the month of February, minus Jade City. So imagine this is Jade War. I had a pretty good reading month for the month of February, so I'm excited to see what March has in store. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye!